format rules for New Hampshire Motor Speedway. 3 rounds. The first round, if you are in the fastest 24, you advance into round 2. If you're the fastest 12 out of round 2, you advance into round 3. And round 3 will set the top 12, which includes the pole winner. But Kelly Stavus, I'm noticing there's not as many cars on pit road yet as we would have expected. What's going on in inspection?
And that's because there are still several cars making a second and third attempt to get through inspections. You see Trevor Bain right there looking over the inspection of his 6 car behind him. You see the 1 of Jamie McMurray and then the 4 of Kevin Harvick. And I just saw the 42 of Kyle Larson come out of the final tech station facing the wrong direction, which means they've got to have another go at it. The 4 failed on the nose module, so the team was just working to make some adjustments to it. And now we'll hopefully give it one more pass through. But here we are. Cars are about to go on track for qualifying, and several of these cars yet to even clear inspection, so they're going to be delayed getting out there. I talked to a couple of crew chiefs who seemed a bit frustrated, said it's one thing when 5 or 6 cars fail, it's another when this huge group of them fail repeatedly. So a little bit of frustration. It's going to be a little bit of a time crunch for some of these drivers.
Qualifying has started. You see the time in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, already under 19 minutes. This first round will be 20 minutes, and we're starting to see cars make their way out there. But Steve, this also refers back to the warnings that you get. If you get 4 warnings, you don't get your position. That goes through tech as well. So if someone is missing or not getting through tech, is there a possibility that they get the warning for going through tech too many times?
Well, if you go around too many times, you can get a written warning that can happen pre-qualifying or pre-race. But their concerns right now, the team's concerned right now, aren't the written warnings, which can add up to missing pit stall selection. It's getting on the racetrack. You know, we're already down to 18 minutes and 20 seconds. You see McDonald in the 32 car making laps. We have, you know, the 4 of Kevin Harvick, the 42 of Kyle Larson. Teams that I'm sure had expectation to try to move forward round 1. They have to get on the racetrack to have that opportunity.
And even if they do get on the racetrack, you know, they may be limited in the number of runs that you can make. So if you go out there and it doesn't drive well in this format, you have time to go out and make another run. But if you're sitting in the garage area trying to get through tech, you may not have that opportunity because you got to come in, you got to get the tires cooled off, you got to get the engine cooled off. It limits your opportunity to go back out a second or even a third time.
Eddie McDonald, one of the locals in the area from Raleigh, Massachusetts, 36-year-old. Eddie McDonald is very familiar with this racetrack, has raced virtually everything that they've ever raced in this area as far as Loudon, New Hampshire. K&N cars up and down the line. Anything that has wheels, he's been racing it here. Mike Lynette now out on the track in the Flying J, number 46.
You know, Rick, you hate to try to fortune from somebody else's misfortune, but that's what these teams are going to look at. If there are 5, 6, 8 cars in the garage area, that's less cars you have to beat in round 1. So now if you thought you had a 25th to 30th place car, if you can bump out 5 of those cars that you had mathematically figured out in your top 24, well then perhaps you could have an outside car. You look at Chris Buescher right here in the 34. You know, he was 35th quick in practice, so maybe he didn't have the most hopes going into qualifying, but if you have 4 or 5 cars not get a lap, then you make your car a little bit better. Chris Buescher can end up in round 2 of qualifying.
The one thing that's going for the guys that haven't gone through tech yet is we have yet to see any of the teams that we expect to sit on the pole go out. They're sitting there waiting. They're thinking the track's going to continue to cool down, try to get more speed in the racetrack. So really, they haven't lost any track time yet. Based off of the cars that are going to sit on the pole, no one is gone. So they're not missing prime track opportunity at the moment.
And that's coming from experience, Mr. Burton. Probably, if not the most dominant, one of the most dominant ever to race at this racetrack was you. I mean, you led every lap here in one race. You've won multiple times here.
Yes, but I got to race in spite of how I qualified.
But this being, and that's a great point, I want to bring that up. Track position is so important here because it's a short race. 301 miles. You've got to have good track position, which means it's so much easier to start up front than it is to start in the middle or the back of the pack.
Qualifying today, I think, is exceptionally important because track position does matter, but also qualifying here is one of the toughest qualifying of the year. It's very difficult to get your car to drive good. After they look at Menard, way up the racetrack. You know, his car's not driving well. It takes a while to get these tires to feel good. So this is one of the hardest racetracks to qualify on, and it's one of the most important because track position doesn't matter so much.
Well, and let's add in that we're going to have varying strategies on pit road of 4 tires, 2 tires, gas only, and this is a very tight pit road because even with the elimination of a few boxes down to 40 cars, where they eliminated the pit boxes hasn't really alleviated the issue from the first to the 40th place car. It's still going to be very tight. You see Denny Hamlin here on the left side of your screen looking at his car. The good news is if they're under the hood, I assume they're taking the height blocks out, getting the car down on the ground after the laser platform, getting ready to go on the racetrack.
And listen, that to me, I hate that.
Right.
I hate that my car's not online, that I can't sit in that car and close my eyes and focus and pay attention to qualifying. I now got to roll out. It throws me off my seat. I do not like coming from the garage. It's just not what drivers like. Marty?
And Jeff, I just talked to Denny Hamlin and said, are you a little worried? He said, not really. And I made the point to him that you made a moment ago. Not a lot of the fast guys who they expect to be contending for the pole with are on the track so far. And he said, well, that makes me feel even a little bit better. Mike Wheeler did just tell him what you just made the point, Jeff, that when you get in the car, roll straight on the racetrack. So he's got to go straight from the garage area to make a qualifying run. But again, Denny Hamlin not too concerned. By the unofficial account down here, 8 cars in the inspection area. Michael McDowell just left the garage area. Trevor Bayne, Denny Hamlin leaving here shortly.
Well, it's no big deal until it's a big deal.
Right.
And what I mean by that is we've only had 5 cars on the racetrack in the first 5 minutes. So simple math is 35 cars to go in 15 minutes. You know, while this is a short track, you still don't want a car close in front of you. You don't want aerodynamics. And more than that, you just don't want the distraction. It's a very, very tough racetrack to drive, as Jeff mentioned. Your marks. You know, what I mean by marks is where the 44 of Brian Scott, where does he lift at what braking marker? As he turns into the corner here, what hash is he trying to get to, the second or the third? Avoid the paving seams. There's so many things that go into these drivers' ability to make good laps. You don't want the distraction of a car in front of you.
Yeah, eliminate distractions, and that's what happens when you have more than one car. You start looking at that other car, but also the distraction of leaving from the garage area versus leaving on pit road. There's little things don't sound like much, but it knocks you off your rhythm. It's like a free throw shooter in basketball that, you know, the crowd noise bothers. It's that kind of, it's the same basket, it's the same basketball, but you have something distracting you, and that's what's happening to these guys. It's an annoyance. You're not able to focus like you normally can.
And the information they're receiving, we see on the bottom right hand of our screen, currently fastest Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at a 28.94. Well, in practice, he was 22nd quick at a 29 flat. So he picked up a half a tenth. So if you're one of these drivers like Denny Hamlin, figuring to go on the racetrack, he also has to, if he was sitting up pit road, he'd be watching, figuring out what the track has in it. In the garage area, a little bit more of a distraction, as we keep mentioning. Also, lack of information. He's not able to watch all these other laps, and maybe he might see Michael McDowell run a little bit different line, or one of these other drivers do something different. That's all information he's not receiving being in the garage area.
And pit road right now has lines of cars on it waiting to go out. When do the patience run out of waiting in line and just decide, I got to get out there and at least turn a lap?
There's only been 8 cars on the racetrack.
Right.
You know, so I think what happens is, I think when you see that fast car roll, then that's when you're like, hey, okay, we got to go. They think it's time to go. It's now time to go. And then to Steve's point, what if everybody decides to go at the same time? You know, then it gets really chaotic, and you're backing yourself into a corner. From what I saw in practice today, you might can go out the second time and run a little quicker. I don't think you can, but you might can. But by waiting so long, you are taking that opportunity potentially away from being able to get that second run.
You know, another issue, you have to remember how this inspection process works. They go through all these stations, but the last thing these crews do is remove the height blocks that are required to hold the car up at inspection heights, hook up some shocks, sway bars, other things can be adjusted on. You know, you want your team to be able to take time and not make a mistake there. You've been here all day long practicing, and now a small mistake can hurt your qualifying chances.
Qualifying continues. Already 9 cars have been on the track. The clock continues to count down from 20. Just over 11 minutes remaining. So again, we're almost at 1 car a minute, and that's not going to work out when you have over 40 cars trying to get out on the track to turn a lap.
And Rick, as I push forward to qualify, one of the storylines I'm going to try to watch is everyone going to run 2 laps yet? We're talking about round 1, you only have to be in the top 24. Now that only is not a knock on the cars that are going to struggle. I've been one of those cars that Jeff said, maybe my qualifying track record's about like his, never the best qualifier. But the cars that had a tremendous amount of speed, Martin Truex Jr., Edwards, Kyle Busch, the top 3 fastest in practice, Brad Keselowski, very good car here, 11th quick in practice. Is Brad going to try to do this in lap 1? If he can run a good enough lap time here on lap 1, we'll see where he ends up. He's currently second. I would expect him to run a second lap. Maybe try to limit the time on tires, though, if you could do it in the first lap.
I like the lap David Reagan put up. He's
to 94.
You're close. That was Paul Wolf saying, I don't want to tell you to quit. Why don't you run one more?
Alex Bowman almost into the wall as he came out of turn 2.
Keselowski's running just a little bit quicker, not a whole lot quicker than Reagan. See Kurt Busch, the 41, laying down a good lap time.
And guys, now I'm seeing 5, 6, 7 cars on the track at one time.
That one good car went. As soon as that one good car went, then it was like, hey, we all got to go. That's just been like that in this sport forever.
Kurt Busch jumps to the top of the chart.
And in a 67, I expect Tony Gibson to tell Kurt Busch, that's enough. That's enough. That'll get us into round 2. Let's not put any more time on our tires. I would expect the same out of Carl Edwards here if he gets a good first lap.
I don't know if Keselowski, I don't know that lap Keselowski ran, if that's going to be good enough. We'll see. It's about 3/10 off what Busch was able to run. I don't know if that's going to get it.
Again, the top 24 will advance from the first round to the second round. All the times get reset. And then the top 12 advance into round 3. Carl Edwards ran and won the pole last year, both races. So I'm sure they're expecting good speed out of that car once again this year.
Yeah, both Kurt Busch and Carl Edwards only ran one lap in that first run. They feel like that's enough to get them forward. Kenseth's just up to P2. He's probably only going to run one lap.
Yep, shut it down.
20 cars have been on the track now. 21 have taken time. Ryan Blaney moves into the top 5.
I'm surprised Kenseth is running this lap. I mean, he's quick enough. 99% sure he will transfer with that lap time. I'm surprised he's running this run.
I agree. I thought he was shutting it down when he came off turn 2. I think this is, it's an extra lap on the tires. I don't agree with this. And, that seems like, what's the big deal, an extra lap on the tires? It might not shine through now, but the next round we might see something.
And he slowed down almost 0.2 of a second on the second lap that he was out there running. A.J. Allmendinger, the 47, now out on track.
And Rick, as I look through the garage area now, I see all the cars on the racetrack. So while there were some cars delayed, now with basically a little under 9 minutes left in this session, all the cars have made it onto the racetrack. Or, excuse me, made it on to East Pit Road.
Yep. Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Kyle Larson, and Alex Bowman. They are the top 5. This segment, this round of qualifying, 8 minutes remaining. Only 8 minutes to go. Just letting you know the hat at the top of the screen currently not working, so we don't have the info. I'll keep you updated as far as the times. It's just under 8 minutes to go in this first round. Again, the top 24 will advance to the second round. Martin Truex Jr. so fast in Kentucky a week ago. Trying to find that speed once again. Comes back to an area a little more familiar to him. Martin Truex Jr. out of Vienna, New Jersey.
All right, shut it down, P4, shut it down.
Eric Holberg very adamantly, didn't say it once, 5 or 6 times, shut it down, shut it down. We did what we needed to do. As you see, Clint Boyer's 24th right now. That's the bogey. That's what everybody has to run better than.
That is the cut line, 29-18.
That's moving quickly. Now it's Greg Biffle. As you see, Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott. What I would consider well above. It's only a 1/10 of a second, but in a 1 mile track, a 1/10 of a second is a pretty good exhibition. Now, 2 or 3/10 of a second.
And as you can see, we're comparing their times to Greg Biffle because Greg Biffle is the guy that is 24th. You have to be Greg Biffle if you're going to move up. So that's why we're comparing the Greg Biffle speed. Now it's Trevor Bayne.
And it's going to move to Landon Castle. That's how quick it can happen. If you're one of these cars, say 24th to 18th or so on the grid, you have to pay attention because it's going to move very quickly, Martin.
You guys see Denny Hamlin's going to take a second lap. Denny called that. He said, if we can do it in 1, I want to do it in 1. But you got to give credit to his crew chief, Mike Wheeler. Remember the panic trying to get through inspection when they came out on pit road. He said, everybody take a deep breath. We have plenty of time. And to what you guys were saying earlier, to that point, he had Denny sit on pit road, watch a few cars, pay attention to what was happening, get in the game a little bit before he went out to make this qualifying lap. 19th and now to the top for Denny Hamlin. How about that?
Great lap for Denny Hamlin, 28-62. But that pushes Michael McDowell now onto the cut line.
Denny Hamlin, man, his fastest speed on his second lap. Of everybody in the top 10, he is the only one that's running his fastest speed on the second lap.
So on the left side of the screen, you see first through 24. Well, with only about 6 minutes left, in my opinion, the top 10, Casey Mears in 10th. Great lap for Casey Mears. He's safe. So we're going to slide that down. We now see Jimmy Johnson in 15th, but what's important is that cut line. Michael McDowell just above it. Tony Stewart just below it. But when you look on screen and see Joey Logano tracking well into the green, Michael McDowell, Paul Menard, even Eric Almirola is going to have to really watch as these cars continue to try to go out and run faster.